Hey guys, great to see you and welcome back to part 2 of Blues in the Key of A. So if you didn't see part 1, I'll pop a link down below. It's important that you watch these videos in order because they get progressively a little bit more difficult and we want to get each part down before we move on to the next part, because we're going from the very basics to trying to get a very authentic Delta blues sound. Alright, and that's the way we're going to do it, by just steadily progressing onwards and just getting a little bit more difficult, I suppose, but introducing new elements and new ideas as we go. Alright, so in part 1 we took a look at a basic shuffle which can be used to play hundreds of blues songs, so very worthwhile checking out and getting down as a first step. Right, now what we're going to look at today is some different ideas about how we can, play a blues in A. So it's a kind of completely different idea, and I should just point out that in part 1 I was using my fingers by and large. I didn't really use a pick. Now, of course you can use a pick, right, and accomplish a lot of what I'm showing you with a pick, but you will reach certain points whereby it becomes a real challenge to try and do what I'm doing with a pick. So it makes a whole lot of sense to try and start using your fingers, all right? Because it's all very well just playing a basic shuffle with a pick, like a kind of... all that's really straightforward and easy, right? You can go through all your 1, 4, 5 chords doing that type of thing. But what becomes difficult with a pick is when you do things like turnarounds, where you... things like that can be very, very difficult to play with a pick. Now, of course, it can be done, like I've just shown you, but it sometimes has a more authentic sound when we use our fingers, so I'd just like you to bear that in mind. So let's get started on part 2, right? We're going to play another blues in A, but we're going to take a slightly different approach. So what I'd like to try and start teaching you in this lesson is how to get better control of your thumb, because that's really important. It can set a beat up and really make it, really nice and steady. So if we take the same A shape that we were using in part 1, which is this shape, and you'll be familiar with that now because you've watched part 1. Now the idea behind this is to create a little bit of a rhythm just with our thumb on the right hand. As you can see there, I'm playing and I'm dampening, right, which is what we talked about in part 1 again. But I'm using dynamics as well, so what I'm doing is I'm altering the volume. Some of the beats are soft and some of them are loud. Now these are all the little things that make your blues sound authentic. It's all these little techniques, so hopefully you'll bear this in mind, right? So as you can hear, we're going to play that A, right? Now we're going to develop that, but first off, just get yourself a nice, or whatever you consider to be kind of nice blues rhythm, okay? Now we're going to swap our D position from part 1 and we're going to play this position, which is a different way of playing a D. So essentially, if you could think of a D7 as being like this, but what we're doing is we're just going to keep those 2 notes there, but we're going to add an F sharp in the bass, all right? So essentially, we're going to use our middle finger on the 6th string, 2nd fret. We're going to use our index finger on the 2nd string of the 1st fret and our ring finger on the 3rd string of the 2nd fret, okay? Now that's a D. And again, what we're looking to do initially is all in the bass, all right? So our D is going to be... Now don't worry if you're thinking, well, it's not sounding brilliant at the moment, right? That's not the point. We're just looking to create this steady rhythm. Back to A. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to like a standard E, which is, an E major you'll be familiar with probably, all right? And that's just up there if you need to know what the shape looks like. And the little finger can come down on the 3rd fret 2nd string to create an E7, all right? So we can use that as a shape. So like I say, the first step here, don't be fooled into thinking, oh, this isn't that interesting, because these are the basics, and what we're going to move on to once we've got this down is how we can add a little bit of top end, right? And that really starts bringing it to life. So just make sure you spend a little bit of time with the A, D, A, E. Alright, so we've gone through all those chords there. We go back to A, D, and then A, E, and A. Alright, so very basic, but what we're really trying to do here is educate our thumb into being very, very rhythmic and steady and not miss a beat, just really solid, because that's the key to playing a lot of blues. So hopefully you'll run with that and work on that a little bit, and when you come back for part 3, we're going to take it even further. All right, so hope you've enjoyed that one, and I'll see you soon with another lesson.